All right.
What's going on?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to our brand new podcast, Wrestling with Life. This is
Patreon exclusive.
yes, as Sean mentioned, this is an absolute 100% Patreon exclusive. So,
Oh
of
yeah.
course, we want to thank everybody for joining our
Thank you.
Patreon so you can get a chance to check out Wrestling with Life.
Yeah.
And so this is a podcast where we interview people in the world of professional wrestling who are not professional wrestlers.
No, but they're somehow involved in the wrestling universe
Yeah,
in their own
absolutely.
special, unique way. Just like
Indeed they are.
our very first guest on Wrestling with Life. He is actually our intros to all of our shows, Opinion City and this one.
Yeah.
He is part of the band known as The Mystery Men. Please welcome Kenny.
Yo.
What's
happening,
going
fellas?
on?
Dun-dun, it's
I
Kenny.
am well, fellas. How you guys been?
We're doing great, man.
Killing it, man.
Just
Sick.
before we went on the air, I think we all had a realization that like we all know each other in some
Yeah.
random form of the universe.
Indeed.
Hell
me,
yeah.
me and Kenny actually met right in my hometown at Fry Brewing, which is a brewery, which is a great brewery, by the way.
Very long time ago.
Very long time ago.
Because I figured out live on the show that I have 624 days no booze. What up?
Yes.
So
Golf
All
clap.
right. Congratulations,
Golf
man.
clap.
yeah,
That's
dude.
that's a big deal.
That's
dude.
huge.
It rips,
huge.
dude. It rips.
That's
The best
awesome.
thing ever. But we also, so not only did we find out that Sean and I are buds, but we also found out that Ralph and I are buds
Yeah.
from a certain day. If I can even, let's
Uh-oh.
see.
Oh boy.
I can pinpoint it when
Pinpoint it
Ralph and I have a
exactly.
wonderful picture together.
The Wrestling with
It-
Life historian is
It
checking
was
out.
go.
it was on a hot day in August in the year 2018.
Oh wow. Throwing it back.
In a place known as formerly known as the Wrestle Factory
Yes.
on Wingate
Mm.
Street,
Mm-hmm.
when a certain person lost a certain grand championship.
Oh.
And we took a pretty sweet photo together to celebrate / cry the victory / defeat
Yeah.
together. And that is a memory that I will tell my friend Carrie that this happened, and she will laugh so hard that we
That's
all just
awesome.
ended up on a podcast together. So cheers, gentlemen.
Yeah.
No, that's
Glad, all
hilarious.
this
That's
is well.
that's yeah. We just
Yeah.
had a weird circle of who would have thought like
and we're
Exactly.
and honestly, we're all veterans of the former Chikara-dom. We
Yeah.
were all, big
Right, like,
fans of Chikara.
we were
so
we were all at
just-
shows together but didn't know
Yeah.
each other at the time,
Yep,
but could
yeah.
now
Yeah.
talk about it like, oh yeah, I was at that show.
Oh, yeah, I was
at that
show
show.
too. Oh
Well,
yeah, we were at that.
that's how me and Ralph met 5-6 years ago. We went I was at one of the Chikara shows and there he
Sure.
was,
Yeah.
bow tie and all with the sign,
There
Yep.
you
Oh,
Hey now, no, it's cool. Oh, there
it's
it is.
actually right there behind him for those
Love it.
watching.
Love it.
yeah.
I'm gonna
Up
find
on
that
this,
photo. I'm gonna find that
Up on
photo and
this
send
wall
it to you guys.
here. Up on this wall here is my Ecuadorian flag. I should have. Well, I have to break the bow ties out because listen,
Bring out the bow.
I gotta tell you a quick story. I have a special bow tie that nobody else has.
That's awesome.
So for years, I kept saying to him at shows, "Listen, I get that you're selling these single color bow ties. I'm like, you
Yeah.
need to sell the Ecuadorian flag tie, the one you wear. I'm
The
like,
flag tie.
You gotta sell those because they'd sell like hotcakes." So
Yeah.
when he decided that he was no longer doing the Ecuadorian gimmick and was moving on to the American gimmick,
The Lex Express.
yeah, exactly.
The Lex Express, exactly.
So he gets a hold of me on Twitter and he asks me if I'm coming to the most recent show because this was going to be the first one where he was doing that gimmick, and I said, yeah, I'll be there. And he said, well, see me after the show. I have something for you. So I catch up with him after the show. Will, you remember Will, Kenny?
Will's my dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell
So
Will's
Will
the
and
man.
Will and I were together
We're
at the
all
show.
dudes,
Love
yeah.
Will.
So we went over and we got our pictures with him, and we had a little conversation. And he says to me, he's like, "Here, I brought this for you." And he hands me a Ziploc bag, and it's got the Ecuadorian flag bow tie in, and he's like, "This is the actual one I wore in the ring." He said, "Don't worry, I had it cleaned." He's like, "But this is the one I actually
Listen,
wore in the ring." Which
My sweat's off of it. Now it's yours.
yeah, so that's one of my very special memories regarding that. But
That's very cool.
yeah,
That
we
is
all
very cool.
kind of have some roots based in Chikara,
Of course.
in our fandom, which is
Yes.
a wonderful thing, but also a sad thing at the same time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bittersweet thing going on, you know?
We remember the good times.
Of course,
and we
yeah.
still support the men and women who are sort of keeping
Of
the
course.
flag alive,
Of
whether
course.
it be Labor of Love in
Yeah.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or LVAC in the
Yep.
Christmas city of Bethlehem, or Blitzkrieg Pro, or Rad Pro Wrestling, or Pro Wrestling Grind up in the New England, Massachusetts area. All of those places are keeping the flag. They're keeping the fire burning, so to speak. So
Yeah, for sure.
check them out, YouTube, IWTV, wherever you can. If you're into Chikara, if you're understanding any of these words coming out of my mouth right now,
Yeah.
you'll check out all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting that you bring up Labor of Love, because December 10th we got Billy Avery joining us on the show.
Yep, we got Billy Avery going on the show. Yep.
Yeah.
It is gonna come to the ring and punch you in the face, Billy Avery. I don't really know how the words go, but it goes like this, Billy Avery. Oh man,
That's amazing.
Part of the whole. I got to break out my Brave Billy Avery long sleeve spooky season shirt
Nice.
this year,
Yeah.
so
Awesome.
I made sure I got some traction out of that. He's love Billy Avery, great dude.
Were you, and just I don't remember, but were you at the show at the Phillipsburg Mall
Hell yeah,
in the Reebok?
Hell yeah.
one of the best shit, one of the
So-
best, one of the best days ever. So good.
Listen, I
When that
was
vi-
the
there's when
I was the guy
video
that
of
Billy
that-
Avery was afraid of during his entrance. Like he
amazing.
came over to me and he's like
That's amazing.
trying to shake my hand, but he's not sure if he wants to. And the guy's singing about me. Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
So good. There's a video that my aforementioned friend Carrie, who was with me at that show as well.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
another show we always reference. We saw our OC's parents were there
Nice.
Yeah.
in
Nice.
the original OC t-shirt.
That's
Like at the
awesome.
beginning of the peak, and it's like, oh, there's OC's parents.
Nice.
So very
Nice.
cool. There's a video that she took over. We were standing in the building. We were standing in between the ring and the entranceway to like the mall area.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I know like they packed as many people as they could in that abandoned Foot Locker.
They absolutely did.
The
Oh, the Foot
video,
Locker, I'm sorry.
the
yeah.
video is great. The
Said
video
Reebok.
is great. You'll find it on Smart Mark Video. You can download that
Check it out.
before, but being there live, it doesn't quite capture the live experience we had that day. And there's a video
No,
that
it's
Carrie
so great.
filmed during the scramble match where everybody does a dive,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and everybody's doing the dive, and everybody literally fell right in front of where I was.
Oh,
Nice.
And before the guy, I think it was either Kodama or Obarion of the Batiri, we're gonna do the
Okay.
final dive, and I do the Too Cold Scorpio
Yeah.
little flip
Yeah.
move, and he of course does like some flip gainer or something. And so whenever that video comes up, I share it with the caption of, I'm like really good at watching pro wrestling, you guys.
Right.
Which is funny because
Nice.
it's like I predicted that the dude was going to do a flipskaroo,
Yeah.
corkscrew nut butter onto the floor or whatever. they
Corkscrew
want.
nut butter.
You know what I mean? Like whatever. Like the three
Yeah.
hand, not to be confused with the 3-handle credenza or
Right.
whatever they got going.
Yeah.
on there.
Well, this doesn't compare to, well, it doesn't really compare to OC's parents, but
What actually does?
one time at the Wrestle Factory for a Chikara show, I sat in the front row next to the Whisper's grandmother, and she was like the
Beautiful,
nicest.
wonderful lady.
Oh,
Nicest
she's
lady.
so the nicest woman you would ever meet. I mean, I have never seen anybody like a grandmother being a fan of their grandson. Like I've never seen anything like that. Woman was a
Right.
fan of the. But she sat in the front row, and I believe that was
best.
probably the last time she sat in the front row, because I don't think she realized all the diving and all the moving
Right.
and running.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you know, you
Wasn't
see,
expecting any of that.
you see the students start to make their way in front of you, and you just know, pick a direction and run for your life.
Pretty
Right.
much.
Right.
You run.
And I almost thought and this is another story that kind of relates to what we're talking about. I almost killed a wrestler at the Wrestle Factory one time.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
literally thought that I killed Fire Ant.
Oh,
So
that would be
Oh,
very
no.
bad.
You know-
Imagine the butterfly effect. Whoa.
you know
oh, Jesus.
you know how fast
Bad things, man.
Fire Ant is.
Bad things.
So there are people on the outside of the ring, and Fire Ant is going for a dive through the middle rope, but it happens so fast that nobody has time to get out of the way. So when
Sure.
Fire Ant
Oh,
dives
geez.
through that middle rope, he lands head first into my left knee.
Oh,
Just crumpled over
jeez.
on the ground.
Oh,
And
no.
I listen. I'm pretty sure that's why I have problems in my knee to this day. But
Yeah,
I mean, I
blame
had
it on
trouble
Fire
getting
Ant.
up and
Blame it on Fire Ant.
getting out of the way. But
Oh wow.
I literally thought he was a dead body there on the floor because he
There
just hit my knee and crumpled.
there were definitely some moments in the Wingate Street situation where guys would just hit a dive out of nowhere. It wouldn't
Yeah.
just be the standard like he's
Oh, yeah.
outside, he does the baseball slide, he does the hand clap, he
Yeah.
tells everybody he's gonna do the dive, and then he hits the
Mhm.
ropes and then he does the dive.
Yeah.
And sometimes that would happen,
Yeah.
but there would be other times where literally on a dime, like somebody would just turn around and out of nowhere do a tope into the middle of whatever. Like
Yeah.
that was another thing. Like when I was going to shows as Carrie started was like a new fan. I said that was like a thing. There was a
Mhm.
time Whisper came out of the front hard cam style. It came
Yeah.
out of the ring on the hard cam side
Mhm.
where it was all just the chairs. And I mean, he literally hit the third row, and I was
Oh,
like, "You gotta
jeez.
move!" And she didn't move, and he just ate the chair directly next to her. So she's just sitting there
Oh, no.
laughing, like
Oh,
not knowing what to do,
no.
next to like Whisper's dead body and this folded chair that was just like, oh.
That's
So it was
Oh, boy.
incredible.
Ow.
But yeah, it was
Crazy.
definitely, that was the kind of stuff that would happen there. And it was like, you
Yeah.
gotta pay
Sure.
attention, you gotta know what's going on. So head on a
Yeah.
swivel at these lucha shows. You never know
Oh,
when you take a wrestler home with you in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
that day, which was quite often back in the day sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
so.
but,
How did
Yeah.
the Mystery Men come to be?
so
Yeah,
there
I'm
was a
excited for
band.
this story.
There was a band in the
Yes.
early 2000s that
Ooh.
played in like the New Hope, Pennsylvania area called Sinking Ship.
Okay.
And they were all very talented musicians that were all good friends and lived in a house together.
Right.
So during the winter time, when there's a big snowstorm, what happens when a bunch of musicians live in a house together? They all get a bunch of beers and switch instruments and write dopey songs about
Nice.
pogo sticks and toilet
Yeah.
paper and how to cook a turkey and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So they would do shows they would play these shows at John and Peter's in New Hope,
Okay.
and they would still New Hope, Pennsylvania, that is, and they would
Yeah.
still they would play these ridiculous songs and they would wear costumes, and then their
Nice.
first names would be backwards. So like on
Okay.
drums and vocals, instead of Jason, you'd have No Sanj, and on
That's
bass,
great.
instead of Mark, he was Cram, and they called him Captain Cram, and he had like an
Genius.
Evil Knievel motorcycle helmet.
I love it.
Mitt,
Nice.
instead of Tim, was the keyboard player, and
Mm.
he wore like a like flippers and swimmies and a life preserver and a weird like elephant inflatable thing on his head. Like, so they would just do these weird things and do it in costumes.
I love it.
And I always thought
I
they were
love
great.
it.
So they have an album on Amazon called Live from Your Mom's House.
Yes.
Big thumbs up.
Yes.
So they have another album I think called the Sinking Ship. The Bottom is another album, but I'm not sure if that's like on the platforms or whatever.
Right.
So years go by, I end up in on the East Coast Jersey Shore area with a couple of other musicians. We start playing. The idea was to sort of I meet a bass player. I play drums. Have
Same.
played drums for a very long time. Met a bass player. Met a guitar player. We were all supposed to be part of this other band that was sort of recruited by a lead singer to do this weird like industrial electro rock thing. And we're
Yeah.
like, yeah, but we want to play some covers and like play some bars and get paid. So
Yeah, of course.
we sort of
Yeah.
decide to do that.
Nothing wrong with
And so we pick out our list of tunes of like, we'll play some local places, do the thing, because there's a ton
Right.
of places to do that around here.
Mhm.
So before, so we would show up to practice, and we would be at our guitar player's house, and he would record everything that we did. So before we would actually work on this like list of songs for work,
Mhm.
we would sort of just have these warm-up jams and sort of get loose and listen to each other, and we were all sort of on the same musical page as far as bands we would listen to and how
Yeah.
we would sort of like, if somebody's going high, somebody goes low, we all sort of play together, we sort of listen to each other, and things like that. So after a few months of recording all these jams, my guitar player is like, I got all these piles of discs, because this was back when we would record things on pieces of plastic, these
Yep.
ancient relics. So it was like, what are we going to do with all this music that's completely different from this like list of covers that we're going to go play in bars and stuff.
Right.
And so the idea sort of hit me, and I was like, here's what we're going to do. I was like, we're going to book original shows with jam bands. We're not going to write a set list, but we're going to redo the jams that we do here and just sort of have sketches and ideas. And what we do live is going to be new. And like whatever it is going to be like improv.
That's fun.
But we're going to do it in costumes.
Nice.
Like that was the kicker. So like that was where the, coming from the sinking ship type of thing, just putting our own twist on it.
Yeah.
So then the three of us had different ideas for what costumes we would be. And I would, of course, did the lucha mask thing.
Yeah.
And so once the three of us, so that went on for a little while, and then once the three of us all did the lucha mask thing, that's when it sort of clicked with people.
Right.
And that's when it sort of started getting a reaction, and people were like, oh, this is a thing. And like some people who would get it be like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. And then other people would be like, I don't understand why you're just normal guys who just stand there and play music. I don't get it. So, and I was like, that's cool. It's not for you.
Exactly. It's not for you.
Peace out. You know what I mean? Like it's not for you. So hit the bricks, pal. So, and and so we would do that where we would say, oh, the Mystery Men aren't here yet, but we're going to set up their equipment. Don't worry. They're totally going to be here when the show starts.
Nice.
Set up all their stuff. We leave. We go outside and put on our dopey masks, and like, I went to like say Joann's Fabrics and found some fabric, get a yard or two, cut it in half, tie it in a knot as if you would were like, a 6-year-old superhero, and be like, let's go back inside as the Mystery Man, and then people would wig out, and we of course like, sort of act in character, and then get on stage, pick up our stuff and play our songs. Like, so. And then, the sound guy's like, oh, that's the same guys. They're just in masks. But like, I would,
it's the allure.
Right. I would tell programmers, right. I would tell people who would book shows. I was like, oh yeah, you got to talk to our guy, Manny Gonzalez. He handles our email and stuff, which is me. It's just Manny Gonzalez's dope name. Like, but I literally have I have an envelope from the Stone Pony from like, they actually send you tickets. Like when you're going to play a show at Stone Pony, man, as a local band. Yeah. If you're going to play the Stone Pony, basically they send you an envelope ahead of time of tickets you're supposed to sell in advance.
Yeah.
So that way, so I have an envelope from the Stone Pony that says Manny Gonzalez with my address on it.
I love
and had
it.
the tickets in it. I kept that as a souvenir. And so that way, when you show up to play the show, you say, hey, I sold, this amount of many tickets.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, great. You can go on 4th or whatever, and then you do the show. So the last show that the original Mystery Men played in 2013 was actually on my birthday in October, which was the same day as the Asbury Park Zombie Walk.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we happened to be opening for the Voodoo Glow Skulls and the Toasters, who were touring at the time.
Dude, what names?
Right. And so we were local support for them. And the day of the Zombie Walk, what that is basically everybody shows up to the Asbury Park Boardwalk all dressed up like a zombie. Yep. And they start at one section of the town by the boardwalk, and they walk all the way down the boardwalk, down Cookman Avenue, which is like the big main drag, until one spot where they then do the Thriller dance.
Yep.
And it's all like a big whole day, and then all the bars are open, and everybody's like trying to catch as many people as possible, and it's a big whole crazy day in the city. So
it's nuts in town. Asbury, like the whole Asbury like town is like closed off. It's insane.
It's a wild situation. So we're playing
I've never heard of this.
So
it's literally like it's a half hour like away from where I am. Like it's not far from. It's not far at all.
Listen, I'm already going next year.
It's very cool.
It was done.
They have rules
but
about
we
what
have
kind.
to zombie our
You,
stuff.
you
We have to
can't
get
bring
zombied
like
up.
weapons. People used to bring like bloody axes and really
Oh,
like
boy.
go hard on the
Yeah.
weapon front or like the
Yeah.
zombie weapon.
I mean, I
thing.
would bring
So they-
props, not like real weapons.
No. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. They've even banned like prop weapons, like
Right,
those
right.
rules.
Yeah.
It
But
makes
like
sense.
but the makeup though, like you go hard on the
Yeah.
makeup and the costume
Sure.
and everything else. So
Oh,
we're
yeah.
playing the Stone Pony, which is like ground zero in the center of that whole area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're just on stage, in our masks, playing our normal set, and half the place is like painted up drunk zombies, and half the
Yep.
place is just normal people who are there to see the show.
Yep.
And so halfway through our set, a bunch of dudes just started body slamming and clotheslining each other
Yes.
for no reason.
Yes.
Which is
Oh,
wild
great.
to have happen while
That's
you're playing
insane.
on stage, which is crazy. But it's not like we were trying to incite anything or like
Right.
start a
Right.
match or nothing. Like we're just up there doing our thing, which is mostly like instrumental, weird rock, dance, jam
Yeah.
band music, whatever,
Just- Just jamming.
But
Just jamming. Yeah.
yeah, like we're just up there doing a show, and like these dudes out of nowhere who just like, yeah, I'm gonna throw a clothesline at this guy, and then like it all just became drunken zombies body slamming each other. So security
Mhm.
ejected like everybody, and we're like,
Oh no.
whoa, that was
Oh
weird.
no.
And yeah, I
Oh.
don't think we didn't get invited to play the play after that, but
Oh
If
no.
if you're gonna go out, it's a great way to go out. So
Seriously, especially at the Stone Pony, that's like the venue to make it happen.
Sure, yeah. Hey, Big Dan, I was gonna take a Bruce Springsteen record and smash it with a hammer just to break everybody's heart. But anyway, that was for you. That was just for you.
Oh
Big Dan.
no.
Oh, big.
So
deal.
anyway, but it's awesome. So we had a great time doing that, and then now it's sort of become sort of like an art project. I don't even really call it a band. I call it an art project because it's
Nice.
going to be sort of like I have lots of different friends who do lots of different types of music. So it's
Right.
like, oh, if it's going to be this dude, it's like if the opportunity comes up and these people are available, then we do these songs. But if it's this
Gotcha.
other kind of opportunity with these kind of things, then it's going to be this crew of guys and we do these songs.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty cool.
but it's fun. The last time I got to do it was actually 4 years ago to this very day as we are
Wow.
recording
Wow.
in the capital of New Jersey, Trenton, in
Ooh.
the center, a couple blocks away from the whatever that Sun National Arena is.
Yeah.
At a great punk rock venue called the Mill Hill Basement.
Okay.
We played there with Puppy Grease. And
these names of these bands are
yeah, they're Puppy Grease. They're tremendous.
there,
Check
man.
them out.
Out there.
They're a lot of fun. They're like a folk punk rock mess, but they're
Folk
amazing.
Punk rock. That's
Yeah, it's a folk punk mess. If
That's
you like that, you'll love
interesting.
it. But so they're the homies, and so they were like, oh, maybe the Mystery Men might be down to do something. I was like, oh, I don't know, let me throw up the bat signal, it's like one of those kind of things.
Let me call in the
So,
troops.
yeah, exactly. Let me see if I can herd some cats and get them in a situation. So ended up working out, and it was pretty funny. We play this one song that I call delete your Spotify account, you sheep.
Nice.
Which because I've been sort of anti-Spotify since that whole thing came out, and then recently there was an article that said for any band that's on Spotify that has less than 1,000 streams, the revenue that you would have made from those 1,000 streams is just going to go back into a big revenue sharing thing for artists like Drake and Taylor Swift.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so,
that's
like,
messed up.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
messed
So
up.
if you're just like a
Yeah.
local band that has to put your music out there and like beg people to listen to it, you're literally
Yeah.
going to think twice to even have your stuff be on the platform. And it's just a way
Yeah,
for
for
them
sure.
to like, it's just basically a way to thin out the herd and make sure, because
Yeah.
the statistics of, how many thousands of new songs get uploaded to Spotify
Yeah.
every single day is like
A
A lot.
astronomical.
Yeah.
So that's just their way of just cutting out the folks. But that's why years ago the Mystery Men said, no way, pal, I'm not
Peace
playing
out.
ball. I was like, and
Deuces.
yeah, and so I said, Bandcamp is an app just like anything else that anybody
Yeah.
can search and download and
Yeah.
have on their phone, and that's the
Mhm.
one place. It's the one-stop shop where you can get the
Mhm.
tunes. It's where they live, and thanks to you guys, for keeping the music alive by having it be a part of the show.
Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Absolutely.
Another cool thing we got to do with this is that Caleb Conley and Zane Riley made a movie a few years ago called oddly enough, Zane and Caleb Make a Movie. Or Zane and Caleb Take Over the World, I believe. And Caleb was literally reaching out on Twitter for creatives to be like, anybody have any music or ideas or stuff they could like send my way, we can use in the movie.
Right.
I immediately hit him back. I was like, yo, here's the album, use it for whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I think that it was on the High Spots network, but I know that's like it doesn't.
That's cool.
I think that's in a process of relaunch or whatever. But
Okay.
Zane and Caleb Make a Movie. But it was great, and there's a couple different songs that they used in that, which is cool, and we got credited, which is fun.
Nice.
And but just keeping it alive, the PW Ponderings crew, pwponderings.com, they do a lot of cool independent stuff. Back in the day when Chris GST used to do a lot of their podcasts and stuff, they had a weekly newscast that they used the music for, which is great. And like, to me, like,
that's cool.
That's the coolest thing about it anyway. Like, the whole idea for me is that, I'm not a person who really watches like movies or shows or like television shows or drama shows and stuff. Like, I watch a ton of pro wrestling and I listen to a ton of music. So like being able to marry both of those interests together, I was like, and especially at the boom of like when wrestling Twitter was at the beginning stages of actually being a cool place to talk about wrestling and follow shows and follow results. And, before stuff was streaming, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Who else is into Chikara I can follow on Twitter to get results from the show in Massachusetts that I'm not at right now. I got to be good friends with Justin Summers of formerly of Wrestling Cheers, and was a producer for Pa Van Dam. He was before he was Wrestling Cheers, he was the Ohio Indie Report, which is how I got to follow AIW, which is a fed that I got to watch through National Pro Wrestling Day back in 2013. So the Chikara office put together National Pro Wrestling Day as a way to launch like wrestling is fun, wrestling is heart, wrestling is all those like wrestling things, and invited AIW to be a part of that. And their match, listen to this match on a free show, it was Josh Alexander versus Ethan Page with Silesia Sparks.
Wow.
So, and that was a match that AIW was like, this is AIW, this is what we present. If you want to watch AIW, this is the match you're going to see. And John Thorne and Chandler Biggins at the time dressed up in suits, and they treated National Pro Wrestling Day like a trade show, and was like, this is how we get new fans to watch AIW.
Absolutely.
So that was the first time I had heard about them. I was like, those guys were awesome. That match was ridiculous. And then I started through Smart Mark Video, saw their stuff was offered there. And then the first show, the DVDs I purchased were the J-Lit tournament that year. And the J-Lit that AIW does is a sort of like a it's in memory of JT Lightning, who's a Cleveland wrestling legend that John Thorne would originally rent his ring from when he was like 15 or 16, first like booking shows and not knowing anything. He would rent JT's ring and have JT and some of his students on the show. Like that was a part of the deal. Cool. So the JT Lightning tournament is like the regulars in AIW plus a lot of say who's cool in indie wrestling at the time, plus a couple of cool throwbacks like they've had some crazy names over the years. But that was how I first got into AIW, and still, all these years later, I still love the company, even though the roster's turned over like a bunch of times. They still put a great, consistent, independent, fun, hard-nosed wrestling product that's now on Fight TV. So I think Hell on Earth is going to be coming up Thanksgiving weekend. That's their big show. Kenta versus Dominic Garrini, which is ridiculous.
Definitely an amazing
matchup. Dominic Garrini is a guy who I've basically watched his entire career. Like, I remember him being a rookie in AIW. One of his earliest matches ever was against Zack Sabre Jr. When Zack Sabre was on his like American, when he still lived in Brooklyn and was doing the all those Evolve shows. They brought in Zack Sabre, and it was let's see Dom wrestle, like baby Dominic Garrini versus hot independent roster guy Zack Sabre. So, Ralph, quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was a Wrestle Factory show where Zack Sabre Jr. was a surprise guest in May, and he wrestled Chuck Taylor. Do you remember that show? It was back when they were doing matinees. There would be a matinee and an evening show. It'd be a doubleheader in one day.
I do remember that
On the
show
spot.
because that was like the start of Zack Sabre Jr. working with them, because he did work with them briefly for a while.
Yeah, this was like one of those because I went to an Evolve show the night before in Joppa,
Mhm.
Maryland,
Okay.
and I believe the next day Evolve was running New York City.
Mhm.
So basically the Chikara office was like, hey Zach, on an hour north on your drive to New York, you want to stop by and wrestle Chuck real quick on
Yeah.
on an unadvertised second match, out of nowhere.
Yeah,
So he's like,
right.
oh yeah, sure, mate. I'll throw Chuck Taylor in the armbar.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
like they started it was
Mhm.
one of my favorite matches from that, and like the idea that those guys a couple years later would wrestle in Reseda for the PWG world title would be pretty
Mhm.
amazing.
Crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like
Just
it's
to
just
think about
wild
it.
how that
Yeah.
whole landscape worked. Like out of nowhere in a surprise match, it's like, oh, here's Zack Sabre Jr. versus Chuck
Yeah,
Taylor.
here's like the best
Yeah.
freaking wrestler from like overseas.
They start doing some technical stuff, and the crowd goes, "This is awesome." And
That's
then
it.
Chuck's or Zach is like, I don't know. If I'm from England, awesome's not really a thing. They would chant, "This is lovely," and so the whole place
Yes.
started chanting, "This is
That
lovely."
needs to be a chant
Yeah.
in
You
America.
They were
That
like, "This
needs
is
to
lovely,"
be a chant.
instead of
This
"This
is
is
lovely.
awesome."
Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's
So,
amazing.
One of my absolute favorites.
I love that.
That is definitely lovely. I will say I do remember a certain awesome moment, because I seem to remember there being a certain guy that tapped Zack Sabre Jr. out in the middle of a Chikara ring in the Wrestle Factory. So, do you remember that?
Blocking it out.
Blocking it out.
Yeah, that was during his big title run.
Ugh.
Blocking it out, man.
Blocking
13
it out.
successful defenses. Thank you.
That was one of them.
That was one of them. Not only that, but I believe it was back-to-back months he beat Zack Sabre Jr. and Mike Quackenbush on back-to-back months.
I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised if Ralph had like almost every match memorized, who he beat, who he faced.
Yeah, as
You
it
know,
was
it
like
just-
Like a whole
I will,
list.
like
listen,
I
I-
have with like Bret Hart's '97
Exactly.
run.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I will say it was very
He beat
sad
up
when
the
he finally
Patriot, then
lost
he
the
beat up
title.
the Patriot again.
Yes, but his match with Touchdown, where he lost the title, was a phenomenal match. Like, just from beginning
yes.
to end, it was just a roller coaster ride of emotion, and
It was.
the crowd was so into it. When all the wrestlers came out and stood around the ring while the match was going, like, it was
Right.
magic.
Magic.
A very magic time.
It was magical. The most magical. Do you think Juan will ever wrestle again, Ralph?
Indeed.
Do you think they will? Do you think the community will allow him back into the wrestling world? Actually,
I'm not so sure. It's hard to say. I think, I think that people could be willing to give him another chance, but I don't know. It's a really tough thing. I know that just from things that I know, he wants to wrestle again, but I'm just not sure that we're in a culture where that's going to happen, unfortunately.
yeah.
Looks like we lost Kenny briefly here.
We'll get him back in a minute. Me and you can chat for a second while we get him back.
Sure. Yeah, we'll chat for a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think Juan was such a good wrestler, and like I know the Me Too movement came out, and a lot of people had things happen during that year, but I don't know. Juan was one of those that he was so good in the ring, and like I missed that.
So for me, I kind of look at Juan as the same way that I look at a guy like the Honky Tonk Man. And why did they put the Intercontinental title on the Honky Tonk Man? Because at that time in wrestling, the Intercontinental title was the workers' title, and the Honky Tonk
Right.
Man was somebody that could go out there a great match with anybody. And to be honest, I really think that's what they saw in Juan. Because
Right.
if you look at the quality of some of his matches, we talked about Zack Sabre, we talked about Mike Quackenbush, Mike Quackenbush and Bryce Wormsberg on their podcast Fire Ant from the show in North Carolina as being an absolute match of the year contender, which
Right.
is incredible. But again, there is I don't condone anything anybody's done.
Of course not. Of
I
course
do
not.
I do feel that there are opportunities where you can say the person that they are now is not the person they were then.
Of course.
Again, not excusing anything, but
It's just unfortunate that
you
we
can't
live in
just-
this world where it's like, yeah, I get the Me Too movement, and I totally I'm not harping on it, but like,
yeah,
we live in a world where cancel culture is just we cancel everything, not just like the Me Too, but now we just cancel everything. At this point, we could have somebody that had said something 15 years ago, all of a sudden that resurfaces.
Yeah.
Nope, they're canceled. Like, it's one of those things.
It's hard. I don't really it's such a hard thing because I mean obviously I'm invested in the situation because Juan was one of my favorites, but
Of course.
I can't discount the fact that some things happened that shouldn't have. Again, not getting into
Of
any
course.
specifics here, but I
No,
think there's
no.
a certain point. I think there's a certain point in time where you have to kind of look at the situation and say, okay, is this really the same person that may have made some mistakes when they were a much younger person?
Right.
But whatever happens. I would love to see Juan back someday. I know that there is a desire there to get back into the world of wrestling. But we'll see what happens. You just never know. Yeah. So Sean, let me ask you.
Okay.
Speaking about bands, have you ever had the opportunity to be in a band, or have you ever kind of dabbled in that world? Like,
No, I would see. That's my brother Adam, who, again, I'm sure when he hears this, shout out to you again. At this point, he's like the honorary member of the group because, like, I'm very much sure since episode 1, I've mentioned him at least once in every episode so far. But yeah, that's more him. I've played drums. I have my drums in my apartment. They are just scattered in every closet because it's a bunch of pieces. I used to play drums back, like way back, like 8th grade. I had lessons and stuff. That's like 2003, 2004, just to give you an age, a year reference.
sure.
So I played for a while. I had lessons for a while, and I don't know. I think I just grew out of it. I guess I don't know. I had no space for it, so I went into my parents' attic forever, and that's where it came in. So I was never in a band. My brother was in a band. I just loved playing the drums. I just never. I don't know. Maybe it was just because I was nervous being on like a stage like that with a whole bunch of people.
Sure.
But like I don't know. It was more of a hobby than it was like, let's be in a band and do fun things with a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was more my brother. My brother also played. Welcome back, Kenny. My brother also played at the Stone Pony. My brother actually played at the Stone Pony too with his old band way back when. And they were it was him and his buddy Vin. They were called Half Past Then.
Okay.
They played a few shows in Stone Pony, so there's some reference. But no, I was never in a band. That was never really my thing. But speaking of bands, Kenny.
There's the photo back there.
Oh,
this photo right here.
Yeah.
Is that
this is actually taken from it was a local photographer took this photo. My mom gave this to me for Christmas one year. It's
Nice.
a packed Stone Pony outside of Springsteen's Rising
that.
after party.
Love that.
Back in like the dark days when it
That's
was like
awesome.
the extra dark days of the pony, but it actually being open. So
But yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of bands, you are in a different band as well, other than the Mystery Men. Which I think you actually just rolled out a new EP about it. Why don't you give us a little scoop?
We did. We got. There was a reggae band called Dub Proof.
Yes, Dub Proof.
Earlier this year, we dropped an album called Neptune. 13 or 14 tracks. It's very chill.
It's very chill. Very super chill.
It's very chill. Very American reggae, aka white boy. But we don't say white boy. We call it American reggae.
American
nowadays.
reggae.
So that's what they call it. It's not from California because we're not from California, so it's not California reggae. Tropodelic does not play California reggae. They're from Ohio. And really good, by the way. Just because they're from Ohio doesn't mean they can't play reggae.
Yeah.
It's all good. We all listen to it. We all learn from the masters and, put our own original spin on it the best way that we can. So Dub Proof, Neptune, that's out there. And another
when did
project
Dub Proof form? Was that like around the same time that the Mystery Men was formed, or was that like a...
That was a precursor, actually. Mystery Men was more of a side project from that. Dub Proof was been a band since 2007. I joined as a percussionist in 2009, 2010-ish.
Okay.
Did both percussion and drums for a little while. Took a sabbatical around 2013. Went to a ton of independent wrestling shows. Got back into it around 2017, 2018. And then we did a Christmas album, which is out as well. Season's Greetings. It's Christmas music for people who don't like Christmas music. So
that might have to go on my playlist at work.
Yeah,
everybody will hate me.
That's up there too.
Maybe I'll love it anyways.
Yeah, it's a reggae Christmas. We found a YouTube channel that was chock full of reggae Christmas songs.
Nice.
So we sort of just bit the ones we liked the most and twisted them up and did them our own way.
Nice.
So that's cool. And then after that, we're like, okay, great, we have a Christmas album. So now we got to record like an actual album, of actual stuff. So that was what Neptune was. So that came out in April. So we played a couple shows in June, and we've been going back in to find some places to play on top of writing some new tunes and working all that stuff out. So that's good things happening. I have I'll be doing a live stream the night before Thanksgiving with a band called The Mixtape. That's MIXXTAPE. You could like us on Facebook, where we'll be doing a live stream that night of both originals and covers, which is good. And then the night after Thanksgiving, I'll be playing percussion in a reggae band called Crucial, who are celebrating their 20th year anniversary of being a band at Broken Goblet Brewing in eastern Pennsylvania. It's right over the river from New Jersey.
Okay.
I forget the exact name of the town. It's called Broken Goblet Brewing, and that's going to be 2 sets of Crucial doing original music, original reggae, again, American reggae. So, but I get to, that's a lot of fun. Being a percussionist, I get to stand up, I get to play, wood blocks and tambourine and cymbals. And
that's awesome.
Vibra slap and vibertone, claves, all kinds of fun instruments that I don't usually get to play when I play regular drums.
The Vibra slap is one of the most underrated instruments of all time. The Vibra slap is so underrated.
It also has to be placed properly. It's got to be placed properly, and you also got to make sure you don't abuse the Vibra slap, because sometimes people could be guilty of Vibra slap abuse, and you don't ever want to be guilty of Vibra
slap abuse. That's a great name for a band.
That's also a great name for a band.
So I'm glad you came back when you did, because Sean and I were talking about bands and whether he had ever been in a band, and I had 2 small run-ins where I almost was in a band, but it did not happen. Well, yeah. So a friend of mine and I were going to start singing, drums, a little bit of
Okay.
everything. Because I play like 18 different instruments. Like it's
Again,
That's
crazy.
crazy. I never knew
Ralph
that
is
about
the
you,
man
though.
of many hats. Kenny's the man of many bands.
I never knew that.
I play drum set. I play a little piano. I play baritone sax, the real big one. I have my own baritone
Nice.
sax. I play
Nice.
ukulele. I play a little mandolin. I'm trying to learn a banjo. I'm working on harmonica. I play a little bit of that. So yeah, I'm kind
Nice.
of all over the place. But so
Ukulele.
a friend of
Yeah, right.
ukulele, correct. But a friend of mine and I were going to start a band. It was going to be a very sort of it was a cover band, but more of like a parody cover band, and we were going to be called King Chode and the Snail Trails of Failure.
Oh my God.
So that was number one. And then I was this close to starting a cover band of my own. So
Nice.
nobody must be familiar with The Office because I got no laughs on that one. But anybody that knows The Office that watches this will find that humorous. But yeah, so I had a few run-ins, but never quite happened.
Yeah, no, I was
Maybe
telling
someday.
Ralph that I used to play, drums. I picked up, I guess, the hobby like 8th grade, like 2003, 2004. I went into lessons. My parents paid for lessons, and I did drums for a while. I had a drum set that I bought from Amazon or something, eBay for like $200. It's an unknown brand. There's no brand on it. It's just a blue drum set. And then towards the end of our lessons, my parents had to cancel because they found out that we were no longer learning things. I would just bring in songs like, "Hey, I want to play this song." And you show me how to play this song.
Well, I mean, honestly, not to
That's still
blow up
learning.
their spot, but if you've heard of I don't know if you guys have School of Rock
Yes.
near you guys, but like the franchise of School of Music, like that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
My nephew, who's now a sophomore in high school, he just finished his second season as marching band. He played tenors, which we called quads back in my day,
Yes.
but they call them
Yes.
tenors now.
Mhm.
Because they're not even quad. It's one frame that holds 4 concert toms, but
Right.
they're now added a 5th or 6th, and in some cases 7, depending on how expensive your budget is,
Yeah,
whatever.
the
Yeah.
ones-
But so
the ones we
he's
had
been
had a tiny
playing.
little one.
Yeah, he's been playing. That's that. The tiny one in the middle was the quint.
Yep.
Was the 5th
Right.
one. Yeah.
Right.
So they would he would literally, he's been taking drum set for a few years now, and basically School of Rock, it's like they're teaching him AC/DC songs, they're teaching him
Well,
classic
yeah.
rock songs. Like think of like the version of Guitar Hero
yeah.
that would be the equivalent of drums, and that's
Mhm.
pretty much what they're
Yeah.
doing. And then they're teaching, they take every student who's it's the same, like, okay, you're taking a bass lesson, you're going to learn this AC/DC song, you're learning
Yeah.
drums, you're going to learn this AC/DC song.
Mhm.
And so
Well,
then they
it wasn't
take
even
everybody
that.
Yeah.
everybody on their own learns the part on their own, and
Yeah.
then they say after a month, okay, you guys are now a rock band. They throw them
Yeah.
together and they say, that song you guys been playing, now you're
Play
all
it.
going to play it together.
Do it. Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what it is.
Well, what happened
So-
was that towards the end there, it wasn't even me playing. It was I would come in the song because my instructor Ryan was so good. So I would come in and be like, "Hey, play this song," and I would just sit and watch him play the song. So it wasn't like I was learning anything. I would just challenge him to play a song. He would crush it. I'm like, all right, cool. See you next week.
Nice. Right.
And then, so after a while, I was like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna cancel. I still have somewhere in these boxes of my stuff my old booklet of lessons where I wrote down all the notes and was like writing down notes.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy. My drum set, I was telling Rob, is still in here. It's just in pieces scattered in closets because I had moved into a small apartment.
Yeah.
And I wanted to close down my storage, so I was like, I have to bring the set with me, but it's gonna have to be in like pieces everywhere because I have no room for it. So it's just literally just scattered. I have a tom here, a bass there, a snare somewhere, pieces
Hardware
of
in the
it's just
closet.
scattered. Yeah, it's scattered. Yeah, because I even if I wanted to set up here, I had no room. I would have to put it in the middle of my living room,
Which isn't going to happen.
which
Yeah,
isn't gonna
that's-
happen. So.
And that's my problem here. I don't have enough room to once the podcasting studio happened, it took over the room where the drum set was going to go. And
Yeah.
So the drum set is
we took over.
still behind me. Yeah. Drum
I've
set-
seen
drum set's
guys-
still behind me.
I've seen guys get an electric. Oh, I can see the black and white.
Yeah,
there
it's right.
on the
Yeah,
back
yeah.
there. So,
Mm-hmm.
some guys that I know that were super into it, in the same situation, just got themselves an electronic kit.
Oh, those are
and
so
will
cool.
plug it up
So much
like,
fun.
and just basically set it up facing the wall. So it's like,
Mhm.
it's a smaller kit. They can still play.
Yeah.
They can turn the volume down all
I
they
thought
want. They're not
about
going to
that.
bother their neighbors, and it's like right there. And the heads on it, it's not just like the normal electric pad.
No,
it's
yeah.
like the actual, like
Yeah.
real. It feels like you're hitting an actual drum.
It does. And I've
For sure.
I've played those before. And it's not a terrible idea. It's not completely ideal. You know, I much prefer an actual set, but
Oh yeah.
you know, if it's what
yeah.
you have to do, it's what you have to do. But
Right.
that's how I learned how to play. When I was in high school, we had in the winter we'd have jazz band, so there'd be a drum set up in the drum room all the time, and I would literally go up there on lunch every day and just put on the radio and play whatever I heard.
Sure.
Like, and that just
Right.
until I got good enough to do it, you know, I would just keep playing and playing, and I basically just taught myself how to play.
Yeah. All right.
So
I do have.
I think there's a lot of value in it.
I do have a story that qualifies sort of as a band that I forgot about.
Oh.
It's a little bit embarrassing.
You were holding out on us.
I was because it's not really a band. It was just something I had to do. So in college, I was a mass comm major, and we had to do a video production 1 class. And video production 1 class, one of our first projects was make a music video, with a song, and you guys have to edit it. You guys have to record it, edit it, sync it to the song, like perfectly, because he was because he would notice it. Even if it was like perfect to us, he would know. Like, no, it's off. It's off. Fix it.
Mhm.
He was so minute with that crap. Anyway, so the song that was chosen to us was Bon Jovi, "You Give Love a Bad Name." And who was on the drums? This guy.
Yeah.
So they gave us like instruments to like fake it till you make it. My teacher Mott helped us film it because we had an idea to make it like a story. Like, you know how like those old like music videos, they would be, you would see them singing, but you also have like a this underlying story throughout the whole video.
Yeah.
We had an idea for that, but there
course.
was no time. So instead, we went into the studio. Mott got his red camera, fog machines, lights, and just said, "All right, we're gonna film it like an old school '80s video." So
Nice.
I was the drummer, and I literally bought this Halloween costume where it's like the fake tattoos on your arms. I went full on. I had like these red zebra stripe pants. I went the full '80s look.
Strong.
The 2 girls in the group grabbed like a jacket from like, you know, Goodwill, like an old school jacket. The guy just didn't do anything. He just wore a shirt. But so yeah, so it's out there. It's actually on YouTube. As bad as that is, you can live a bad name. I'm in the background playing drums with shades on and a bandana. So that was my
Nice.
band moment, if you will.
There you go. It counts.
Yeah.
It counts. You got together. You made it look like you were playing some music.
Yeah, you know.
It counts.
Absolutely.
So there was a place locally, that used to have live music. They would have original music on a Thursday night, and they would the guy who ran it sometimes would miss out on bands or like people who were there like couldn't do it or whatever. So I would get a call on like Tuesday afternoon to be like, "Hey man, can you go on at midnight on Thursday?"
Oh God, that's so late.
I'd be like,
on a Thursday,
I guess. Yeah, because it started like the first band would go on and play from 9 to 10.
Right.
What would it be? Yeah, it would be no. He would do a bit, get started around like 9:30. First band would go on at 10. Second band would go on at 11. The last band would be on at midnight, and then the bar would close at like 1:30. So, so one time I remember doing it with like 2 other guys and one guitar player, bass player, and then I said, okay, halfway through the set, we're gonna plug in the iPod and we're gonna play House of Pain's "Jump Around" and like sing along to it.
I love that.
I was like, we're like, I'm gonna get out from behind the drum set, you're gonna put your bass down, and like the guitar player's not gonna do anything because he did like no idea, you know what I mean? He's just gonna stand there and act. And like we're gonna do House of Pain's "Jump Around" on the iPod on original music showcase night. So like that was a great bit.
That's amazing.
One time, this is an incredible story. There was a an independent show that was put on in South Jersey in the backyard of a probably now defunct strip club. At least I hope it's defunct at this point. That
Let's hope.
Joey Janela was in the opening match of, I think there were 3 or 4 people paid, empty seats surrounding the ring in this
Oh, wow.
backyard. Oh, and Matt Tremont was on the show.
Oh,
But
jeez.
he was using his lucha gimmick El Gordo Libre,
Oh,
which was
okay.
pretty cool. And historical legend Lyle C. Williams, historical photographer for CZW, came and took pictures that day. And so I have pictures of myself and my friend Harrison, who played bass, and we were
Nice.
just a duo playing like weird drum and bass, like
Nice.
whatever we did, riffs type of thing. And Lyle Williams took photos of us that day, and I was like, holy shit, Lyle Williams took my photo. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
awesome. Yeah.
I wigged. I was just like, oh man, I was like, this dude has been at every Cage Death. This dude has been at every like crazy independent wrestling moment from the
Yeah.
arena. Like, you can go back and see him on, you know, God rest his soul, man. Super nice guy, loved wrestling, loved being a part of it. And so the idea that the Mystery Men have photos that were taken by Lyle C. Williams, legend, is like legend, is pretty awesome. So another great thing we got to do, the night before the Chikara pay-per-view, Under the Hood, there was a variety show that was put together by Ophidian and his wife Kate Nix.
Okay.
They put the show together at the Philomoka, which is still a music venue that exists, which is incredible. They've been through some crazy up and down since then, but
Yeah.
it was the night before the Under the Hood pay-per-view from the Trocadero.
Oh.
And it was a special variety show called The Blank Canvas. So Ophidian had put the whole thing together. It was a gig for basically like Kate Nix was like the last act to go on.
Yeah.
The Mystery Men did a set before then. There was a sketch comedy troupe who did a live sketch. There was an impressions contest where Mr. Touchdown got to do his Dwayne The Rock Johnson, if you smell what Mr. Touchdown is cooking. Dasher Hatfield was hanging out. The Colony guys were hanging out. Chuck, Worker Ant, a couple dudes from the Batiri. So like that was a lot of fun. And so we played, that was the only show the Mystery Men ever got to play Philadelphia proper.
Oh, wow.
Former current LVAC ring announcer Loud and Noxious got to do an acoustic song that was very cool. And Zia Hilty, Chikara photographer, had lots of her original prints up and framed, including her legendary photo of El Generico that I believe that was taken in Canada.
Right.
If you ever see a picture of just basically El Generico sitting empty on a bunch of bleachers where he's staring at the camera, and I don't know if his boots are unlaced or his mask is unlaced, but it's just an incredible photo. Zia was the mastermind behind that one.
Right.
So that was another wonderful memory. Like that full show is up on YouTube, youtube.com/the Mystery Men 1. Everything we ever did visually or whatever is up there. youtube.com/the Mystery Men 1. You can find out all that stuff. I got a couple of sweet TNA house show matches from the convention hall that I filmed, so allegedly. And then some of those are up there. And then a lot of these live shows, the Mill Hill Basement show is up there. The Blank Canvas show is up there, at least our set of it anyway, which was cool.
Nice.
So I love all that stuff, and I love to be able to get together with my friends and jam out, throw on some masks and freak people out. I got to go to a Halloween party last year where I basically wore. My mom is a very super talented seamstress quilter,
Nice.
and
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe even high school marching band days, she made me this like black hooded cloak, like a druid cloak, basically,
Nice. Yeah.
out of corduroy that I would wear in marching band to basically keep warm because we would do this Halloween parade every year. So like, she's like, oh, like she
Yep.
got this thick warm material for me to like wear this costume thing. So I've
Right.
always kept it and still been able to use it.
Nice.
So I go to this Halloween party in this druid costume with a La Parka mask and put on skeleton gloves. And
Love
then
it.
I basically just ape everything that modern day Danhausen does. Right? Where he's just like very evil, very like, you know, creeping
Yep.
around and
Yep.
like talking with a funny voice and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you were really good. You were terrible. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and the best part about it is that I was sort of like new to this social circle of people, again, like a new social circle of musicians and stuff.
Yeah.
So a couple of people who were there who were musicians knew who I was, but no one else did.
Oh.
And at one point, somebody was like I overheard the conversation. They were like, "Yo, is that Walter?" They're like, "No, man, that's not Walter." And they're like, "Yo, then if that ain't Walter, then who the hell is that guy?" You know. So it's always very
Yeah.
funny. So you know, again, another great like sort of mystery men, sort of all tricks, no treats. You know, Halloween fun and good times there. I feel like in the old sort of traveling in the old Easton Funplex days of Jakara, I feel like Danhausen would have been like a main attraction kind of guy
absolutely.
who would have had
yeah.
great. He would have had great matches with like, you know, dudes in the Batiri or like Thunder Frog or you know, anybody who was in the roster at the time. I feel like he would have like El Generico left, you know, he would have been like a guy that would have came in when they were around. I feel like Danhausen would have been a great person that would have gotten that spot on the show, you know, stuff like that. But I know we mentioned Labor of Love before. Oh, go ahead, Ralph.
We see all these guys in the mainstream that you know are of that sort of character style that are now becoming like these huge stars in the mainstream, but were just really the basis of what we watched in Chikara for years, and now it's just all over the mainstream.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean,
it's
really cool.
I took a trip out to AIW 200 in Akron, Ohio, I guess 2019. And that was right before Danhausen got his first Ring of Honor spot when Ring of Honor was still owned by Sinclair.
Yeah.
And so he was on the rise, and basically he was out before the show selling merch. He was out during intermission selling merch. He was out after the show selling merch, had a line the whole time.
He was there.
You know, and that was back then, and to see, you know, what he's turned into now is incredible, you know. To see what Willow Nightingale has turned into.
So good.
Willow Nightingale broke her neck and would go to Wrestle Factory shows and sit in the back under hard cam with her neck brace on and her hair back with a hat on, being like, "Don't look at me, don't pay attention to me, I'm just here to watch the show. I'm hurt and I'm sad and I just want to watch the show, and like I'll accept your positive vibes, but
leave me alone."
You know, you know. And so like to see that, and now to see what Willow has become and all the hard work that she's put in and all of the, you know, to see all of it just sort of snowball pay off and have her become a huge, you know, part of mainstream television, you know. It's like another one for the good guys. You know, that's just how I feel with all that stuff, you know. Whenever anybody from sort of our little circle of wrestling crosses over, you know, I'm waiting for Edith Surreal to be the next one. You know what I mean?
It's
like
coming.
when I see Edith Surreal wrestle, no matter whether it be it's Enjoy or whether it be Invictus or whether it be LVAC, like she is a pure student product of the Wrestle Factory.
Absolutely.
Like you can see everyone who came before her in her moves, but at the same time have it be completely different. Like I remember one day I was driving I was driving to a Wrestle Factory show, thinking, just random thinking that like I was thinking about how Sabu would whip a dude into the ropes, and instead of following him, he would hit the ropes like cross, like up to the left of it. And so as the dude would come off the ropes, Sabu would come off the ropes immediate to the side and throw a clothesline or something. And I was like, nobody does that anymore. That show later that day was when I saw Still Life with Apricots and Pears do that exact move setup, except with a bulldog instead of a clothesline.
Nice.
And it blew my mind, because I was like, I was just thinking about how nobody does this anymore. And then
So cool.
bam, it happens in Philadelphia. And then I brought that up to her a few years later, and she said, "Oh, honey," she's like, "I don't even do that one anymore because I don't want to take that bump." She's like, "If you ever see that being set up, I'm not gonna hit it because I ain't taking that bump no more." I just thought it was so great. I was like, it's incredible.
That's awesome.
But again, it's just also like, we all have that sort of hole in our heart when this thing used to be fun, and it wasn't just, it was bright colors. It wasn't just gray and silver and black with a little red in it. You know what I mean? Like we saw purple, we saw green, we saw yellow, we saw, all the colors,
all the things.
That's
so
such a great way to. It's such a great way to describe it.
Seriously, I mean, that's what it is. Like if it's not,
so
I mean, there's so many shows that happen, and I just see the roster, and it's like it's a 2.5 match show. I was like, that match looks really good. That match looks really good. But the rest of this, you can keep, pal. And a lot of it, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't hit the way for me like it used to. And I feel like how people talk about mid OO's Ring of Honor, which I completely missed. But the people who did see it were like, "Oh, that was when indie wrestling was best." But like, no, that was when you thought it was the best. Indie wrestling I loved was when we were getting together twice a month on Wingate Street, and seeing the colors and enjoying shows and watching guys like, Juke Joint Lucas Calhoun and the Boar and Logan Easton LaRue, and the list goes on about all these guys who were great. And then the end happens, and then all these promotions are like, "We're gonna book all these Chikara kids," and they lied. And you know what I mean? It's just what it is.
Shame.
So like, book the Whisper, book Boomer Hatfield, book Shay McCoy, book all these people, because they're incredible wrestlers, and they
as all hell.
put on. Another company I want to shout out is High Tension Wrestling. If people haven't paid
HTW.
attention to them,
Yeah.
they're keeping it alive too. So
They're doing great stuff.
And Labor Love's got a big show planned, Mania weekend this April. They showed off a picture of their title belt on their Instagram page, and they just said 4/3/24 Philadelphia with a picture of the belt. So they're gonna have a show. They're gonna crown a champ. All our favorites are gonna be on it. So circle, save the date, circle it. You can watch anything else. You can watch anything else later. My philosophy going into this like Philadelphia Mania weekend, like if it's streaming, it means I can watch it later.
Exactly.
If it's not streaming, that's a live experience. I need to be in the building for.
So listen, with that being said, are you going to be in the Philly area for Mania week? You got plans?
I'm at least going to be, I know there's a couple of podcast meetups I want to do. And the first show I really want to see is that Labor of Love show.
There you go.
Like that's, I mean, when 2019, the last time they were in New York, New Jersey, I did 6 events and a live podcast in 4 days, and none of it had anything to do with World Wrestling Entertainment.
Nice.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's just what it is.
Well,
not that I have anything against it. That's great.
No, certainly not.
If you want to support it, That's cool. I just know that there's too much other rad stuff going on.
Yeah, so many things. Yeah.
Now we as Opinion City are putting together our plans for that week. We're looking at we're doing that week, so we will definitely be in the Philly area. I know Monster Factory has got an entire week worth of stuff that's planned, so they are doing it big, and they said that they're going to be running some shuttles from the major hotels in Philly to Jersey for their shows.
To their headquarters in Paulsboro.
Yep, in Paulsboro. Yep.
Smart.
So they're
Smart
going to be
move.
running shuttles, and it's going to be a big week. So we're definitely planning on being there and doing some cool stuff that week. We're still putting together plans, but
for sure.
Yeah. So on that note, this has been a lot of fun, and I got to tell you, I mean.
Hell yeah, you guys! Thank you so much.
The planned hour long blew by like you would not believe.
Listen, it happens.
So
it happens.
Yeah, when Sean was like, you only got to do 30 minutes. I was like, brother can talk. I was like, 30 minutes is gonna go by.
Well, no. We had to narrow down which show was which. That's all.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So with that being said, we will definitely have you on Opinion City.
Of course.
At some point, we'll get you on
anytime.
there because I mean, we'll just chop it up on there for forever. Man,
we'll just talk.
Go on.
For sure, man.
We're definitely gonna. We've been talking about doing some stuff on Chikara in the future here. So,
yes.
I mean, you definitely have to be a part of that stuff because we've got so much to chat about.
Mm-hmm.
I would love that very much. And I'm just making sure. Let's see. I found that show image that we referenced earlier from that day, from that sweltering day in August.
Oh no!
When the heat was just too much.
Much heat.
One Ecuadorian to handle on Wingate Street.
Oh.
So that'll be in the chat, as they say.
Awesome.
So hopefully everyone will get to see that as part of this wonderful content for everyone. The Patreon.
We get that, shared out there.
I was explaining that Kenny P just doesn't show up on regular places. You got to pay for this solid gold, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So feel free to chop that and use it up any way you like.
Yeah,
it there.
Sounds good.
I certainly will. So this has been a lot of fun. So thanks for joining us here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, fellas.
The very first episode of Wrestling with Life. So again, we want to thank everyone that is a Patreon that's enjoying all of this content from us. And want to thank our good friend Kenny for joining us, and for those of you that follow Opinion City Podcast, please look out for him on there soon, because we will definitely be
for sure
enjoying his banter on there as well. All right, so with that being said, Sean, I think we're going to wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
And again, thanks for being a Patreon, and please keep supporting us. The more you support us, the more we can do. The more we can do with Opinion City, the more we can do with Wrestling with Life.
All the things.
So,
and hopefully, maybe soon, we can get our other exclusive show on here, which will be hopefully coming soon.
Ooh.
Fireside chats with the champ.
Sitting
down with some champions from all over the U.S. Yeah. Have a little powwow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chop it
up. All right,
up.
guys. So we will see you next time on Wrestling with Life.